to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And I must apologize for missing so many mornings lately. I've just been really struggling with not feeling well enough to do my podcast. It's not the podcast part, although it is a little bit being able to not lose my train of thought and stuff, but it's afterwards, like writing the description for the podcast and posting it on social media. That's a big deal for my head, and I just haven't been feeling well. So I'm continuing to take naps daily to try to get myself out of it. So we'll see. But thank you for being patient. We are the daily podcast, but I think sometimes that really screams that I need to rest and take care of myself daily. Sometimes recovery daily means that we have to step away. I mean, that's the truth about what those of us who are dealing with stroke and vestibular recovery. Sometimes rest is all that is going to help. So that's really what I've been dealing with lately. But I appreciate your patience and that you have been showing up here for yourself and for me. We have had lots of new listeners over the past month, and I'm so excited that you've joined us. And there are lots of folks that write to me and tell me that I've become a part of their daily routine, and I'm humbled by that. Like, that is an understatement, but for somebody to want to check in and listen and see how can what I'm dealing with in my recovery be leveraged to help you in your recovery. And I say all the time, for those of you who are new, I say that everybody is recovering in some way from something. And I feel like this podcast is not only for people who may be wanting to get sober, already sober, people who suffered a stroke or have a vestibular disorder. But the topics here are about how to navigate the world when we've got these things going on in our lives, when we don't have control, and that applies to everybody. So today I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. I try not to come across as extremely religious, although for those of you who are lifetime listeners know that I've been on this journey of educating myself a little more so that I can build a relationship with my concept of my higher power. And sometimes I feel inclined to talk about that area of my recovery because it does help me to really lean into the idea of letting go. Um, so the topic today about how do you pray, letting go while also holding on is really pertinent to my life now being totally and permanently disabled. That's what they say. It sounds weird for me to say that out loud. But that's what it is, and I need to learn how to say it without laughing or feeling uncomfortable. But it's weird. It's weird to spend 46 years of my life being able to do whatever I want, hold a full-time job, not only just working 8 hours, but working 10, 12-hour days sometimes, because I loved what I did. And then when I'm not working, going out for a run or going kayaking or taking my Weimaraner for a hike, doing whatever I want to do. And then now to be faced with this this version of myself that is sometimes I shared this morning in my morning sobriety meeting. Sometimes I feel like I'm trapped inside this broken body. Um, I imagine as one gets older, that's what it feels like, that you feel young inside, but your body is telling you otherwise. So, so I wanted to talk today about this illusion of control, and it's really important that I continue to talk about the idea of acceptance. I had her. So when I was growing up, I had this cross stitch thing above my bed, that I believe my aunt made, and or it might have been my grandmother who made. I'm not sure, but it was the your classic like little girl prayer, and so I would read it every night before I went to bed, and that was my prayer. And then as I got older, I my prayer shifted to like gratitude. I didn't know it at the time. I don't even know if I used the word gratitude ever when I was younger, but I was only like thankful for. And I continue to have that until today. I still have this tendency to just in my prayers say thank you, because I always felt like it was selfish to ask for anything. So the desire to like pray for what I want, um, felt like I wasn't supposed to do that. And I don't know why I felt that way, but I've always been that way, that I feel like it's selfish to ask for something. It might, the only thing I can think of where that might come from is when we were growing up, I was a, um, what's the word? My mother was a single mother, with three kids. So, and she worked a full-time job, and we, you know, we weren't loaded with money or anything like that. I mean, it was not okay to ask for things, is what I felt like, because my mom worked really hard, and the only child that did ask for things, I feel like, was me. And because I didn't grasp really what was going on. Maybe it was because I was the youngest, but like my brother and my sister started working at a young age because if they wanted something, they understood that they needed to work to get it. Um, and I didn't get that. I learned everything the hard way, by the way. If anybody was a more selfish child, I believe that that one was me. And I'm okay with that. That's just who I was. And so I think what I learned, I applied to everything. It didn't stop me from asking for things and throwing a tantrum. I don't know if I threw a tantrum, but I definitely had a little tood. Um, but it just is something that I've carried with me. That's the best thing I can say about it. If my family's listening, hi, folks. I hope I didn't say anything offensive or anything like that. I try not to. But I feel like in my stroke and vestibular recovery, it is unrealistic for me to pray for like to heal or feel normal again. Like my brain is broken and it's always going to be broken. I can do exercises to try to keep it from getting worse, but it's really proven to be the case where I'm not going to get better, but I can keep myself from getting worse. When I sometimes retaliate against my stroke and my vestibular symptoms, it leaves me feeling more unwell, though. That is when I start feeling worse. Um, there's like this happy medium between pushing myself so hard that my symptoms go past a 5. So I've talked about rating my symptoms from 1 to 10, and my vestibular therapist worked with me to understand like when I get to a 5, that's when I need to stop and rest. And when I'm retaliating, meaning I want to do what I want to do and I want to do it now to spite whatever I feel like, then my symptoms will go past possibly to a 8 or a 9. I have gotten to a 9. 10 for me is that I fall over. So 9 for me is I have what I call it's like a drop attack. I don't know if it's a traditional drop attack, but it feels like all of a sudden I'm going to fall over, but I don't. Um, and I've had other people explain it a little differently, but that's what a 9 is for me. So I think that going back to this idea of what, 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 how do you pray? Um, Instead of praying for an outcome to be a certain way, I'm learning how to pray for the strength and the courage to accept things the way that they are, the way that they will be. So it's for me, it's like this acceptance that I don't have control over what's about to happen. Um, so I think it's a human instinct um, to try to, I don't know, like survival, fight or flight, push, resist, all of these reactions are like human instinct. And for if we don't get what we want. And it's not natural for me to surrender, consistently surrender. But that's what every day feels like. I woke up this morning and I thought, I don't feel so bad. And by the time I got down to the front door to let my dogs out, I felt terrible. Um, so it's really it makes me feel like it's like somebody poked a hole in my balloon. You know, by the time I get down to the stairs, I'm like, okay, it's another day in reality. It's another day where I have to accept, where I need to surrender to my disability. And I'm hoping that as I work with my psychiatrist, I can learn how to do that in a way that it doesn't feel like like I'm emotionally sinking. Like it feels like as oh yeah, I'm disabled. Oh yeah, I have a chronic headache. Oh yeah, I can't see things move. Oh yeah, I can't look at bright lights. As I accept that or I'm reminded of it on a daily basis, it's like Groundhog Day. Um, it feels like I'm emotionally sinking as I pull in that acceptance. I'm hoping as I work with my psychiatrist that it won't work that way. Like to understand that this is my reality and to have peace with it. Um, letting go is is I think a little different than acceptance. Like I feel like acceptance without letting go drags my emotional state down. If I accept and let it go, then I have the ability to keep moving, if that makes sense. So, not having control of what's happening in my between my not between my ears, that's my mind. What's happening in my brain, the pain, the chronic pain, not having control over how I feel is it's hard to accept that. Like, I can accept that I had the stroke. I can accept finally that I have this vestibular disorder. I struggled with accepting that I had a vestibular disorder because nobody was telling me that. Nobody was coming right out and saying, you had a stroke. We understand that this has caused a vestibular disorder, and you're going to be permanently like this. Nobody has come out and said that. I don't know why they don't say that. I think it's because they truly don't understand, because they don't understand the brain that well. They are able to look at these black and white images that has a little white blob that says, "Oh, that's where your stroke happened." But they don't, I mean, maybe somebody does. Some professional in this world sees a clearer picture of the brain, but the people that I went with, um, there's a specialty for stroke. There's a specialist for stroke. There's a specialist for headaches. There's a specialist for vestibular disorders, but none of them cross the gamut. Like none of them understand the whole thing. And so accepting that I have it has been difficult because nobody's been able to connect the dots and draw a straight line from one to the other. So that's fine. I've gotten to the point where I get it now. I get it that everybody who has a stroke, there is some sort of impact to the brain, and mine was to my vestibular system. They don't have to understand it, I guess. It's regardless of whether they can draw that straight line or not. I'm the one who wakes up with me every day, and I need to accept that this is it. Like this is real life for me. So acceptance, yeah, I've gotten it. And I've talked about that lately. Like I really feel that I've gotten to a point of acceptance, but there's now this letting go of, oh, what is it? Like letting go of the sorrow that is connected to that. Letting go of like letting go is an emotional action. I feel like that's what I use the God box for. So for those of you who are new listeners, just a quick explanation. So in my sobriety program, I was introduced to this idea of having a little wooden box, and having a pack of sticky notes in there and a tiny little pen. And whenever there's something that I needed to let go of. Typically, when I was working, it was when I was pissed at somebody that I was working with. Even my boss, I would write the person's name on the sticky note. I would say, "Let go, let God," and I would write the name of the person on the sticky note, and I would stick it inside the box and shut the box. And that was a representation of letting go of my anger and handing it over. Because I always heard in the program people saying, "Oh, well, you need to hand that over. You need to let it go." And I'm like, how do you do that? I don't know how you do that. I needed a physical representation of that. So letting go, I have always associated with this emotional action where I'm not going to hold on to that today. So when I woke up this morning and I felt crappy by the time I got to the front door and my emotions sank, that I have to take action on that. I have to understand that I can't control to a point. I mean, really, I didn't do hardly anything from the time I woke up to walking out the door. I can't control what that pain looks like that grows in my brain from the moment I wake up to the moment I go outside. Um, but I can take action on the emotional side of it. Um, I can still create a consistency and a determination and a resilience emotionally to what that feels like. And I'm not saying that this is easy. Obviously, it's not easy, but there has to be a way to let go of the emotional side of what that chronic pain does to me, you know? Um, and it almost seems unrealistic and like I would have to be superhuman in order to remove my emotions from feeling pain on a daily basis. Um, and I'm not trying to say that either, but it's it's really disconcerting to have to build myself up every day. And there's a gray line for me between wanting to force something to change that is not going to change and um and just letting go of the emotional side of it. You know, I know that that's kind of a complicated idea that I'm trying to articulate, but strength is not in forcing things to change. It's about continuing forward, um, despite, right? Perseverance is showing up even in the pain. It's it's learning how to win, but accepting the limitations as well. Um, I think that when comes back to like, how do I pray? It's like I still have these moments where I will just stop and I'll look up and say thank you because my normal has changed. Um, I got to go out to lunch yesterday with a couple of my sobriety friends. And while I was there, like everything was fine until it wasn't, until my symptoms just got the best of me and I started feeling nauseous. My head started hurting more. Um, so I kind of adjusted myself so that I couldn't see out the window. So there was like a window behind them. I just told you a couple days ago how that's really difficult for me. It was one or the other. Either I was facing this way and there was a window behind them, or I was facing the other way and there was a TV behind them. So I chose the window. Anyway, I adjusted myself and kept listening to the conversation. And I did feel a sense of gratitude, even though I didn't feel good, because I got to go. I was able to show up. And so I think my prayers are, I think that more, I'm grateful for smaller things now. Um, I'm trying to think like, do I ask for things? I asked my sister about this, and now I can't remember what she said, but I see my sister, hi sissy, I see my sister as a professional prayer. So I ask her, like, I mean, I don't feel comfortable asking for things. And I can't remember what she said about it, but it's funny. I was just thinking about how I think of her as a professional prayer. Um, so I've kind of got lost in my thought, and that's what happens when you're listening to a stroke podcast. But I think letting go is something I have to do every day. Um, and maybe now that I've reached this point of acceptance that yes, I'm totally and permanently disabled. See, I said it without laughing. It sounds weird, but when I'm uncomfortable, I laugh, and I'm uncomfortable saying that I'm totally and permanently disabled. It's like a child who gets uncomfortable and they laugh at something totally inappropriate. Um, Now that I've gotten to that point of acceptance, I feel like it's time to work on the letting go part. Um, when I wake up in the morning, I've shared with you before, when I wake up in the morning and I remember I'm a recovering alcoholic, and then I've had to add to that, I'm um, I'm a stroke survivor. And now it's to the point where I should probably wake up and say, I'm disabled. Um, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm a stroke survivor and I'm disabled. Um, that I think will help me with this ability to let go of the emotions that are connected to that, the feeling sorry for myself. Um, Nothing has gone the way that I planned. Um, I did not see my life turning out this way, where I'm kind of stuck. I feel like I'm stuck. Um, but if I can let go of the emotions that are attached with that feeling of being stuck, I'm going to be able to put another foot in front of the other. And and that's where I'm not then praying for things to change in my life. Um, being grateful for smaller things. My prayers don't have to get smaller because of my limitations. My prayers can be just as big. And that's what I need to learn how to get to. So navigating my reality with grace and courage and resilience, maybe can help me to pray just as big as I always have, you know, um, being grateful for the big stuff, not just being grateful that I was able to make it to lunch yesterday, but being grateful for the trajectory of my life. Like I feel like I can get there. I do. So thanks for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.